All right, well, now it comes to our weekly segment here with our friends over at StockX, Josh Luber. This week we'll talk about Nike's VaporMax shoe and how it could be the next billion-dollar product. Analysts at Morgan Stanley citing this particular shoe line as a driving force behind the sneaker maker's growth. The bank is predicting a 5% growth this fiscal year. Josh, I want to bring you in now. You're coming in from Detroit, I believe. What's your take on this line? Is it going to help? Is it going to meet this threshold that the banks are expecting?
It's certainly going to help. You know, the Nike VaporMax, right, which is this shoe right here, which has this really crazy new sole at the bottom, where you see all air running across the bottom. This may be the culmination of a couple of years of Nike trying to create a sole that is as comfortable and as much of a marketing opportunity as Adidas Boost. In March of this year, during Air Max Day, which turned into Air Max Month, the entire month of March was all about Air Max, and it culminated in the release of the Nike VaporMax. Now, can this be a billion-dollar shoe? I don't know. I think we're probably a far ways from that. Industry analysts say that this year they may sell not even 250,000 pairs. You'd have to sell about 10 million pairs of the VaporMax to get to a billion-dollar shoe. But for now, it's a great step towards competing with Adidas Boost.
Well, you know, when you think about the VaporMax, first of all, just a full disclaimer, I was with Nike a week or so ago at their studio here in New York City. They were previewing their women's fall lineup, including clearly this new VaporMax. But Nike went on to tell me that they want the VaporMax to essentially be what the Air Max 9.5 was for the millennial generation right now in terms of when those shoes originally came out, back when millennials were, let's say, in middle school, early middle school time frame. Do you think that the VaporMax is going to have that same sort of appreciation for the current generation that the Air Max 9.5 did?
Well, you know what? I think it's great timing to do that, right? The Air Max 90, the Air Max 95, the Air Max 97, you know, these have been re-released. They've been such a core part of Nike business for so long that I think it's great timing to have a new shoe that may actually occupy that space. In the short time since it's come out, they've put out a wide range of good colors, collaborations with other brands. I mean, this one right here is actually part of their Be True campaign, and you can see different colors running along the sole. Not unlike the Air Max 95, which had these different layers to the shoe that they could create in different colors. So it's certainly a good concept, and we'll see if it actually turns out that way, but it's a good start.
Why do you think the analysts over at Morgan are so bullish about this shoe? I mean, I don't know of any other shoes that have reached $1 billion in sales, but I'm not an expert, so maybe you could shed some light on that.
Well, look, I think we're all still bullish on Nike. No one's counting Nike out. No matter all the strides that Adidas has made in the past couple of years, it's still Nike. And Nike Air has been core to so much of what they've done. So, you know, if there was a new shoe that could possibly be that shoe to hang that billion-dollar tag on or to be bullish on, I mean, this is it, right? So much of Adidas's growth over the past 2 years has been around Boost, the technology that's in the sole of the Adidas shoe that people think is very comfortable and stylish. So the fact that Nike has a new sole technology that could compete with Boost, I mean, that's the key, right? If they can take some of that share that Boost has taken from them, that would be how they would get get back into it.
And Josh, have you tried it? I mean, is it comfortable? I mean, it looks a little bit silly with all the little bubbles on the bottom, but does it feel like it's boosting your performance at all? I mean, what's the word on the street there?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head right there with performance. I mean, it certainly does look and feel like a performance shoe, and Nike's always been about the athlete, so that's not a surprise. You know, there's a lot with the Adidas Boost that was focused on the person just walking around the street, right? The urban nomad. The Adidas NMD is what it was called. But for this, it does feel more like a performance shoe. Now, there's a lot of people who think that it is as comfortable or almost as comfortable as the Boost, but it certainly looks more like a performance shoe.
Josh, does Nike still have what it takes? Does it still have, I guess, the creativeness, the geniusness, and its innovation of products to have shoes really have that power in the resale market?
Certainly in the resale market, and there's no question about that. You know, the resale market continues to really just be a game of supply and demand. And Nike's been doing this for 30 years, so they certainly understand how to make shoes limited, how to make shoes scarce. Even within the VaporMax, which is not intended to be necessarily a resale shoe the way that Air Jordans are, you know, there are some of the VaporMax that are selling for as much as $1,000 because they're limited colors, limited collabs with other brands. There's one that's coming out soon. It's a collaboration with the brand Clot. Another one with CDG. Both of these could sell for as much as $1,000, so they absolutely understand that part of the game.
All right, let's turn it over now to the hot releases segment today. Let's start with Adidas New York. Daniel Arsham, this collaboration between Adidas and this New York-based artist. Tell us about this shoe. It's retailing at $180, reselling at $215.
Sure. So, you know, the Adidas New York, this is actually an old shoe. Daniel Arsham is a New York-based artist, one of the founders of Snarkitecture, which is an art space design studio. Someone said that, you know, it's not boost, but it's important. It's not reselling, but it's important. This shoe, the past is present, is actually, if you take a black light and go around the shoe, you can actually see the words "the past is present" and some designs on it. It's really an interesting take on an old shoe from a really celebrated and up-and-coming artist. So it's a pretty cool thing. It has not made a big impact on the secondary market, but that's primarily just because it wasn't very limited. They made this widely available to lots of people, which I think in a lot of ways is a really good thing to have this artist celebrated and being available for everyone to see. So it's one of those important shoes that just doesn't have a lot of value in the secondary market.
Right. Josh, really quickly, just why we still have you here. Just, I want to say 2 weeks ago, Nike announced that it's going to be partnering with Instagram. That's right after it came out with its positive second quarter earnings results. Do you think that this is really sort of the future for a company like Nike in terms of getting its product out there, especially on a platform like Instagram, which is, I mean, essentially known as like fashion porn for really sort of high-end products?
Yeah.
Look, sneakers are fashion. There's absolutely no question about that, and sneakers are high-end fashion. You can pay $100,000 for a pair of sneakers, but, you know, obviously that's an exception, but you can pay $1,000 all day long for certain sneakers that are in the high fashion world. So it's no surprise at all for Nike to be using Instagram. It's not at all a disconnect between what the brand is or what the product is. So I think it's good for everybody.
All right, that'll do it for us this week. Josh Luber, CEO of StockX, thank you so much for joining us.